It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
Wes Webster.
Hello all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
So how are you guys doing?
Great.
Great.
Peachy Keen.
On fire.
Everybody's going, okay, I don't get that. No, you won't get that. That's okay. That's all right.
That's all right.
That's okay.
You don't want to get it, trust me.
Right.
So,
That'll take a couple hours that you guys don't have.
well, hopefully you have at least one for the show, but yeah, beyond that,
Yeah.
yeah.
On top of
Yeah,
that.
she meant extra.
Okay. Okay. Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy? I'm gonna duck and run for cover.
Yeah. Great. Anyway, gosh.
It'll be a long time.
Oh yeah. Long but fun, I hope. Well, gosh, I don't know. I'm pretty much still up to the normal tricks. I've still trying to catch up on trades. I've got a ton. I've still got a ton. The pile is still huge. But I got through the big Hellboy omnibus one, and I got into the second regression trade, which is yet another happy story, let me tell you. Really good story, but kind of dark. And to flip it over to the light side a little bit, I'm almost to the end of rewatching the Monty Python's Flying Circus. So, yay! That's a good chuckle every so often. I'm not good at binging things, so I've been watching it for more than 2 months now, I think, just to get through 45 episodes. It takes me forever because I suck at binging.
Alrighty.
Well, I've also been working through my stack, and I forgot I had picked up the Wormworld saga. This is part 2 to book 1, and it's pretty good. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the digital comic that he did before this. If you want the whole story, you can read it online, but I'm finding now that the artwork is just more, I hate to say amazing because that sounds so cliche, but it's a lot richer, I guess. I really love the artwork in this. But the story, I think, is kind of moving kind of slowly. So I got to looking up, why the heck is this moving along so slow? He does Kickstarters, and once they're funded, he releases, I think it's 3 chapters. So there'll be another book that I think is at the end of May. But so far, like I said, 2 books out so far. I think they're about $10 a piece. Good little story if you haven't read them. Part of what got me to go back is someone had made a comment. I think is it DC is doing a Jesus story? And, people are kind of upset, and they're like, well, wait till they read Wormworld. And it was kind of like, well, what's wrong with Wormworld? Totally went over my head, which I guess I don't take offense when people write about gods and demons and devils, and, I don't I mean, it's a comic book, people. It's not the Bible, but I don't know. I didn't get the upset about it either. But so yeah, if you're looking for a good read, that one definitely. If you can't wait, like I said, it is available online, and it is a cute little overcome your fear kind of story. But I would suggest supporting the artist and buying the books, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what hooked you into this particular series?
I think I saw it in previews actually, and I saw the artwork, and that's actually what drew me to it to begin with. I'm a sucker for good artwork. Yeah. Or I shouldn't say good, because some people look at it and go, oh, it's overprocessed. There's a particular style that I like, bold and smooth and really colorful, and this seemed to hit on all of those notes. Which, like I said, if you take a look at the digital version, I guess I should have researched a little bit more. I don't know if it's the same artists. You can definitely tell it's the same work, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But it's just been enhanced and a lot richer of a picture.
Neat.
I need to learn how to describe art better, because...
Oh, we all do. We're all terrible at it.
But for that kind of comic of what it is, it's very detailed. I mean, like, the world that he steps into is just... I mean, there's all kinds of little creatures, and one shot in particular, she's telling him, when I lived in my own world, I didn't realize there was other worlds out there. And when you look up at the sky, there's like 9 planets that they're sitting there looking at. Like, you could almost reach out and touch them. But it's just a beautiful picture, One of those you wish you could frame and put it on your wall.
Well, there are ways to do that.
Yeah. It's a little book, though.
Well, I meant maybe like contact the artist and see if they'll
buying
sell
a
you
print?
anything. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about cutting up your book. Jeez.
It's a little book, like 5 by 7.
There goes the value.
Right? I would cry the whole time doing it. I can hear it screaming. Help me! Help me!
That would be an interesting variation on an unboxing video for YouTube. Watch Liz cry while she cuts up her comic.
For Christmas, they showed me this. It was like comic book pages that had been rolled, and it was made into a wreath. And they're like, "Oh, you could so do this." And it's like, "Oh, I so could."
Not without a fight, no way.
Right? Where are you going to get those comic books from? So I think I wound up tearing up a previews magazine, and I used that instead.
There you go.
It's like I couldn't do that.
We used to do shit like that with the Sunday comics, but I don't even know if they do the Sunday comics anymore. I haven't gotten a real newspaper in years.
Yeah, I don't think I think they do, because you can read them online.
That's about the only thing that's in the paper nowadays, but yes, there is still Sunday comics.
Yay.
Coupons.
Yeah, and circulars. That's about all that's in the Sunday's paper, because everything else has been gutted out.
Yeah.
You can't afford to do anything else anymore.
Mm-mm. Not in the tech age with paper.
Nope. People buying stuff made out of paper. That's crazy talk.
That's crazy.
Alrighty, Les, how about you?
This past weekend, I attended a convention.
Ooh.
It's kind of fun to walk around and see people that I knew and people I recognized. And of course, the creators that were there were fun to talk to also. Didn't spend a lot of money, which is kind of good.
Also shocking.
But what I did buy, I thought was a good investment. So I did okay there.
Cool. Any name dropping you want to do here?
No, not really. No, it's just nice to see the artists that were there and kind of watch them do some artwork right on the spot. So that's always fascinating me because to have that immediate idea of what's going to be on the paper, that to me is like taking the block of granite and chipping away everything that doesn't look like a tiger.
A tiger in Africa?
Where you can bless the rains.
What the elephant was doing in my pajamas, I'll never know.
See, I went to Tony the Tiger, but great.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
We got a running theme for this episode already. Holy cow.
And that's neat. Yes, I was unable to go, but I did notice a lot of tweets from said creators. They apparently had a wonderful time and will probably be back real soon. That's awesome to hear.
Cool.
A couple of them made a remark that it was refreshing how it was a old-fashioned type of a convention, which is nice to hear. Not the mega malls that a lot of them are nowadays.
Yeah.
So cool. Glad you had a good time. With me, I did a short trip out of town. Did a little catching up on books. I'm still behind, but I did take time to catch a couple of movies that I kind of want to point out for a couple of reasons. I will admit these are not great movies. They were decent. I was able to kind of enjoy them for what they were, but they were both westerns. Both of them came out within a year of each other. The first one was called Heaven with a Gun, and Les may have seen these, but I don't know because I hadn't talked to him about it. But it starred Glenn Ford as a former gun-for-hire gunslinger who arrives in this town and decides to open up a church that was all welcoming. He would welcome everybody. And the town that he happens to go into, there's a war between the cattlemen and the sheep herders for the water that's on the land. That's they're battling for the rights to the water. And like I said, it starred Glenn Ford, which if you're not familiar with his fine work, you would definitely know him as Jonathan Kent from Superman the movie, the Christopher Reeve film. But also had Carolyn Jones, Morticia from Addams Family. And the thing that surprised me, because the network I was watching this repeated it about a few hours later. I missed the first 20 minutes of it, but I watched the rest of it. And there was a young Indian, Native American girl, also have to say it that way, the character. And I didn't know who she was until I saw the opening credits and saw the list of names, and I went, oh my God. And then when I started seeing her scenes again, there were certain camera angles where I go, oh yeah, that is her. And I'm talking about a young Barbara Hershey, best known from Beaches with Bette Midler and several other films. But it was a very, I don't know if it was one of her earliest films or whatever, but I would not have recognized her unless I knew it was actually her. But it was a kind of interesting. It was kind of interesting film. couple of Star Trek connections with this film. Oh, God, I need to pull up the name real quick. The bad guy is played by John Anderson, and his connection to Star Trek was he was in the Star Trek Next Generation episode where the Enterprise encountered the couple that was the only living people on the planet when everybody else had been destroyed by an attack. If this vaguely sounds familiar, he was the husband, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in a ton of TV and movies and all that, but he was the bad guy in this one. The other one was Angelique Pettyjohn, who played let's just say Comfort for the cattlemen and all that. She worked for Carolyn Jones' character. She was in the classic Star Trek episode Game Masters of Triskelion.
Oh, she the green-haired chick?
She was the one that trained Kirk. She was Kirk's trainer. I don't remember if it was green, but she was how do I say this? She was memorable because of her big hair. I'll say big hair.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it was okay film. I liked it. The other one was probably, I would say, it was the lesser of the two. It's called Journey to Shiloh, and obviously, after doing a little research, I saw where they were coming from. It was basically it was trying to tell a message regarding the Vietnam War. It is about these 7 young men from Texas who were riding off to Virginia to join the Confederate Army. And then they realize, oh God, this is not what we thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be, they had romantic notions, that would be glorious and all this, and obviously it did not happen. This starred James Caan. But the thing that brought this to my attention was watching the credits is you have a very early Jan Michael Vincent, and you also have a very early Harrison Ford.
Ah.
Both are very small roles. They were part of the 7, but the main focus was obviously on James Caan's character, and then Michael Cesarian was also another one of focus. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't great, but of course, both films, which was kind of interesting because I saw them back to back, also featured Noah Berry, best known for playing the Rockford dad on Rockford Files.
Uncle Joey.
Yeah, there you go. But I mean, I enjoy them for what they were. It was a nice little diversion. So feel free to check those out if you can find them, or not. But
the fun thing about westerns in general is that there's a good, if you kind of focus a little bit, there's a lot of interesting ways you can interpret the message.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're usually very simple stories, but there's usually something that they're trying to get across that they're
Mm-hmm.
being kind of subtle about. So if you're interested in analyzing stories in any way, then watching westerns can be an interesting way to go about it or to practice it.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think what Heaven with the Gun did a better job because there was kind of the underlying thing of welcoming everybody. Because I mean, there was a scene where, matter of fact, it was Angelique Pettyjohn who was talking to Glenn Ford, and she was talking about, well, I didn't think you would want me to come back to church after being here and know what I do. And he says, well, if church doesn't accept sinners, then I would be left at the front door. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's kind of the thing, but so it was a nice little scene and all that. But of course, I like Glenn Ford. I mean, he really good actor, and it's kind of hard not to like anything he does.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, before we get into this week's topic, I wanted to take a couple of moments to thank the fine folks at Things from Another World for sponsoring the fellowship. And currently, they're just running their everyday deals, which includes Deal of the Day and 50% off Nick and Dent comics. But we highly recommend or suggest that you keep an eye out on our website. That's www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and particularly the sponsors page, because we'll update whatever deals they are running, and I'm sure there will be another one coming here real soon. But if you click on those links, that will take you to their website, and let them know we sent you their way, and take advantage of some great deals. Got very impressive line of merchandise, of comics, graphic novels, collectibles, toys, manga, whatever you want, whatever you're looking for, they've more than likely got it. So definitely go check them out. And thank you, Things from Another World, for being a sponsor of the fellowship. Okay, for today, what I kind of want to do, and some of this we may have covered before, but I kind of want to do a little bit more general discussion. It's been about 10 years since Disney purchased Marvel, and I kind of wanted to do a look back and see how things have how things have changed since this has happened. I mean, if you guys want to talk about doing the movies, that's the obvious thing that a lot of people would focus on. But we could also talk about how things may have changed just in overall. I mean, just even we can talk about the TV shows, but also the comics, because that's going to be the obvious thing. But and whether or not you think this was a good move overall, or what, however y'all want to discuss this, I am open. I will say this: having the movies has been great. I'm not sure whether or not Disney has had that much of an impact, because if I'm not mistaken, there was already a game plan, and they were already working on trying to do the films before this happened. I may be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time today that I was wrong. I mean, it's played a part, obviously, but it seems with me the comics, I'm not sure, because it seems like there's been times where I've kind of questioned some of the stuff that has happened. A good example would be, here you have a publisher that's known for doing comic books, and you have your parent company has a big catalog of characters that would work well in comics, and I mean, it sounded like it would be a perfect fit. Yet Marvel's not doing any Disney comics. Those are being done via IDW, and even then, I think a lot of those are actually reprints from stories that were done in Europe several years ago. It's just some of the things I just kind of So that's kind of the basis of what I was wanting to kind of discuss tonight. So I mean, what's your thoughts, guys?
I actually hadn't thought about that before. They have gone way out of their way to keep the brands separate.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of didn't think about it that way. That's interesting. Why
Well,
would they do that? I mean, why would they buy Marvel unless they think Marvel is pretty good at doing what they do, but then they don't seem to trust them with their existing material.
Mhm.
Seems weird.
I think a lot of that came, though, when the talk of the merge happened. Before they actually did the deal and everything else, everybody was like, oh, great. They started posting Star Wars characters with Disney eyes and Princess Leia with Ariel. But I think part of that, I'm hoping anyways, was kind of a respect thing. Okay, they don't want us Disneying their characters up. So let's just give the movies bigger budgets because, hey, we're Disney and that's what we do, and let them do their thing. Especially like Thomas was saying, they had a plan. And I think Disney looked at that and said, well, that's good going forward. What do you need? Let's do it. But I think I've made it very clear. I'm a DC fan, but I enjoy Marvel movies better. I don't know if that's because I don't know the canon or they get better directors than we do. I'm not sure on that so far. But I haven't really seen one in the last 10 years that I was like, meh.
And now that you've brought that up, it kind of makes me start thinking that maybe they didn't buy Marvel Comics so much as they bought the properties so that they could rake in the dough for the movies, and the comics division just happened to come with the deal.
Yeah. Well, if you think about, when you think in terms of merchandising, Star Wars kind of set the example when Lucas was like, okay, you can have the royalties from the movie, but I want the royalties from the toys. And the toys, I mean, if you can find an original Star Wars toy today, you're going to pay an arm and a leg to get it. I mean, they even have tests where you can make sure that you're getting a genuine figure and not a repop, But Disney has always been merch. Little Mermaid's going to come out. We're going to make bathing suits. We're going to make toys. We're going to make glasses. We're going to make, we're just going to oversaturate the market with Little Mermaid and get these people to fall in love with this movie before we even put it out. And that's always been their great marketing genius. People are familiar with it because we're seeing it in the grocery stores and toy stores and, TV, before we've even seen the movie. So I think that's part of what they thought. Marvel knows what they're doing. Marvel's a brand that's been along, almost as long as Disney or before Disney. I'm not for sure on that one. But
oh no. Well after Disney.
So it's kind of why break what's not broken. I know I messed up that saying. Why fix what's not broken? There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I also think you could look back at a couple of periods in Marvel's history and think, they are broken. And one of them wasn't really all that long before Disney bought them. So,
when they threw out their characters, they started piecing, I think Fox owns some of them, and Warner Brothers owns this one, and now Disney owns this one. They had to sell a lot of their characters just to keep afloat. I think now with Disney on board, they'll never have that feeling again. But if the comic side of Marvel started drowning, I don't think Disney would bail them out. That's not their concern. Their concern is the movies and the merch deals, and
it's the IP.
Yep. This is golden. If that's not, who cares? We're making enough over here off of it.
I can't argue with that, honestly.
Yep.
But Marvel's not having a hard go of it because their movies are doing so well. it's bringing people into the comic book store who you normally wouldn't see there, you know.
Is it?
I don't know about recently, but when they first started coming out, I saw it increase, you know, of, hey, Chris Hemsworth, oh my goodness, who wouldn't want to read Thor after watching him? I mean, yeah. So I had things like that, or someone, hey, this movie's about to come out. What do you have that, you know, so I know what's going on? But that brings me to another point, not to jump off that one. Marvel did a good job of, if you didn't know who Captain America was, let me tell you. And then before we throw him in all this big fighting, scary scenes and everything else, let me make you fall in love with this guy. And now let me introduce you to Iron Man. And now let me introduce you to Hulk. So when these guys came together, they invested in that. They've already told us their backstory. We know about them. We've seen their great struggle and conquer, you know. So when they tried to put a whole movie together, it wasn't 6 hours of trying to explain who the Hulk is, who Captain America is. Why do we not like Loki? I mean, you know, it was known. They set it down and gave us a good story on each one, and we were excited to see them together.
Yeah, you know what we should do? We should watch all those movies and see how beautifully that all works together, and then we should just slap together a Justice League movie out of nowhere.
Yeah.
With no build-up at all.
None.
That's what we should do.
Yep. Well, they tried to build it up with Batman versus Superman, and I won't even get on that soapbox again.
We're supposed to be talking about Marvel here.
Right.
We're
I
talking
think
about Marvel.
I beat my little drum on that one. But they tried to tell us too much. And then when that gets into the editing room and you got to take all this out for time, or, you know, maybe he didn't look good in this shot, it left a holy story. Big chunks gone, to where you shouldn't go watch a movie and then come home and finally understand it with a director's cut. You know, that's not the way that should work, you know. But yeah, back to Marvel.
I don't know. Have you seen Blade Runner? But
that
anyway,
was, yeah.
That's a different problem. That was a list of different problems. But anyway, that's even farther off the track. But yeah, Marvel. We're talking about Marvel here.
Yeah. But I think that this is where we're going to go. We're eventually going to get Thanos. He's going to kill half of them, and then we'll bring him back. I think 10 years ago, they knew what their end plan was. And it told all through all of their stories. Although there are a few I have not seen. But for the most part, I've liked what I've seen.
A lot of people have.
Yep.
They have done that right. Wherever it came from, whoever started that whole thing, it has been done very well.
Yep. Well, I think the first good thing they did is when they said, ooh, we're going to get Robert Downey Jr. to do this movie. They didn't think about just that movie. They locked him in with a 10-year contract because they knew it would take them 10 years to tell this story. Same thing with Chris Evans. They locked him into 10 years. Chris Hemsworth, you know, all of them, 10-year contract. So I think they knew they were making greatness. Or for a Marvel fan, greatness. I had to throw a pot in there.
Did you? Did you really?
I know, it's a Marvel night.
It's not supposed to be full of disclaimers.
What say you, Les?
Well, I was going to say, when Disney purchased Marvel, they brought in over 5,000 characters. And this is something that's expanding even as we speak. Marvel had a problem many years ago when stocks were going for an extremely low rate. They bounced back from that. They built themselves back to a prominent position. when Marvel sold to Disney, Disney to me is starting to become the Taco Bell of entertainment, because they bought Marvel, they turned around and bought Fox, which means now the characters that Fox had, the Marvel characters that Fox had, can now be carried within their framework, which brings some of those movies back to a seeable situation, because X-Men 2 and 3 I thought were a waste of time, especially 3, because they spent so much time trying to establish who these people are. They were bringing in new people and they had to tell you their backstory. So I had a problem there. But I am happy to see that Marvel is flourishing under the auspices of Disney's purchase. For one, yes, they're movies. Two, the fact that they have capital now where they can publish comics that are good. Unfortunately, they still are hooked on some of those ridiculous cartoon features for Saturday morning viewing. Those are just horrendous. But like I said, I'm happy to see that Marvel is rebounding, and I would like to see them expand a little more. I wish they would go back to their original numbering system, not this legacy crap. But, well, I'm sorry, and they're touting themselves as 80 years, and I'm trying to figure out where 80 came from. I guess they're looking at the first character, and that was Namor?
Mm-hmm.
So they're thinking, well, he was part of our group, so that's got to be the start. But like DC, Marvel was not a group at the start. They were, Marvel was purchased small publishing companies, and then in the 60s they became Marvel Comics. If I could, I would love to see some film adaptations. I would like to see I would like to see films from Marvel that were not adaptations of stories. But can you imagine a crossover of Donald Duck and Howard the Duck? Just to see how goofy, wow, that could be. I'm glad I didn't say loony, because that's a different group.
That's just crossing the streams too much, right?
Right.
But like I said, I hope that Marvel can flourish. I'd like to see them turn out some good stuff. They've got an upcoming movie that is already getting raves. I've got a feeling it's going to be that good. I think it is their answer to DC's Wonder Woman movie. They're going to tout their heroine as what is she known as? What is Captain Marvel known as? The world's strongest superhero or something like that. So this is going to be a turning point for them because that's going to launch into the new Avengers movie, which will take them into a third stream of movies. We've already done the early stuff, and we've done the Thanos, so let's get past Thanos and start her up again.
See, and that's my question on that. Are they going to get a new Iron Man and just start over? Or are we going to have old man Iron Man? Or,
They've found new actors for Spider-Man. We're on our, third?
At least. But I don't think they consider Toby part of this plan that they put together. Because I think there's like one of the Hulk movies, they're like, no, that's not part of this.
Yeah, that never happened.
Yeah, that was something totally different. We even took Norton out of this one, But
yeah, the Hulk, they're on their, third?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruffalo's third.
But I think only Ruffalo is considered in this phase of movies as the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So is it Andrew Garfield that's playing Sam or Spider-Man now?
No, it's Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. There you go. I think he's considered the Spider-Man of this 10-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And they're right at the end. They threw Wasp and Ant-Man, and now with, is it Captain Marvel or Miss Marvel?
It's Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. I guess that's the new ones coming in for the next phase, or?
Technically, the next Avengers ends this phase of their films, and then everything after that's going to be a new phase, and it's supposed to be new characters.
New characters.
Well, I mean, we'll probably have a couple more Captain Marvel. We'll definitely have at least one more Black Panther and Doctor Strange. Supposedly we'll have another Guardians. We'll see. Maybe another Ant-Man. But yeah, I don't think they're going to turn around and recast all these characters. There's too big of a catalog of characters that they could do stuff with. And now that Marvel Studios is going to have access to the characters they couldn't do before, namely the X-Men and Fantastic Four, they could do something with them. Because I mean, there's been scuttlebutt for a long, long time, and I don't think it's going to happen. Is that as a resolution of with Endgame, that something's they'll fix it somehow, that all of a sudden those characters are now in the universe. But I don't think that's going to happen. That's asking a little too much, because there's too much to do right now as it is.
Yeah. Although with Fantastic Four, with all of the flops that it's put out, if I was Disney, I wouldn't touch it. So would not touch that one. That would be like one of those that was like, poof, it never happened. We don't see it. Don't even put it on my desk. I think even if they put out a good movie, people would be like,
Well, you could say that with X-Men, too.
But see, X-Men's got a bigger following than Fantastic Four does. You've got those diehard X-Men fans that it doesn't matter if it's shit on a plate, they're going to like it because it had X-Men on it. Kind of like Batman fans or Superman fans. They really don't care as long as they see their guy or their hero.
Well, we can ask, Les, is that true about Batman films? If it shit on a plate, then you're still there because it's Batman?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Batman versus Superman. I was there twice.
And I felt Batman Superman was something that led up to the Justice League movie. They gave you background for everybody.
They kind of did, but they rushed it. And honestly, I felt kind of bad because I hate to be talking about DC again, but they put it on Netflix. I guess it was last month. And it's like, I don't think I've seen the Justice League. And I get to watching it, and about halfway through the movie, it's like, oh my God, I have seen this. I just forgot I have seen this.
You blocked it out.
So it wasn't memorable. It was good, but it wasn't Iron Man. It wasn't the Avengers, But I watched it. I'm that fan that will, but I don't know if Fantastic Four has that following that Batman does, or even the Hulk would,
If they put out a Fantastic Four movie, I would be there, providing that one, Silver Surfer is not in the movie, and two, that Doctor Doom is not in the movie. Give me something different.
Yeah.
Because this became DC movies in its Batman run, its Superman run, things like that, because you had the same characters show up time and again.
Yep.
And go, we're all new and different, so sit up and pay attention. I could only fight through about 15 minutes of the last version of the Fantastic Four. The first two versions I thought were okay. But once again, the villain in the first one was Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
The second movie was Silver Surfer / Doctor Doom. I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like they've forgotten that the Fantastic Four ever had a villain other than Doctor Doom.
Very, very true.
And it's crazy. I mean, they could easily leave him alone.
But it's kind of like the Batman and Joker. Everyone knows that story. They know that's his arch nemesis. Sure, he has other villains he fights and stuff, but it's always that one that's going to stick him in the ass every time, And I think that's what Doctor Doom is to Fantastic Four. It's that one that everybody knows that they're up against him, and so they kind of went with, I guess, familiarity on that one.
Right. He's the most popular villain.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the smartest thing Warner did with Batman Begins was not put the Joker in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Make a decent Batman movie without the Joker. That was all they had to do. And it worked.
Yep.
It worked beautifully. And so then everybody was ready when the Joker finally showed up. And it wasn't they managed to do it in a way that was not the same old Joker, but kind of was anyway in the long run. And so I mean, they kind of found an understanding of the Joker that was different but worked.
Yeah.
And it was beauty. It was a work of beauty.
Batman Begins, that would be Ledger's Joker.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't in that movie, but he was in The Dark Knight.
In that series,
Right. Right.
I think that was probably the most relatable Joker they've done.
Wow. That's a disturbing concept.
Right. But it
And
kind
everybody slowly backs away from Liz.
Well, it made sense.
In a way, I agree, and I'm kind of interrupting Liz to explain. I'm not. No, you know what? I'm going to shut up.
No,
You
go
talk.
ahead.
You talk.
No, I was just saying it was the most relatable one. They made him, if it was possible, more human. Where when he gave his story, it was kind of like, wow, I could see being freaking crazy if that happened too, or I can see not liking the system and wanting to blow stuff up. I mean, who doesn't want to blow stuff up? But then they totally went loco with, God, what is his name?
Bane.
Nah, with Leto. I
Oh.
hated that Joker. And see, and I'm a Joker fan. I mean, love the character. I love any story that pertains to him. But when they showed pictures of him, it was like, oh, I'm not going to like him. Not going to like that one at all. They took his class away. Even though Ledger looked dirty and grubby and everything else, he still had a class and I don't know how to put it, just confidence about him.
Well, and in a way, that fit that particular Batman world, for lack of a better term. I can't really think of a better way to put it, but that particular incarnation of the whole the Batman universe, it was from the beginning, it was a little more realistic than we were kind of used to. It wasn't, I mean, it kind of wasn't a DC movie. It kind of wasn't even a superhero movie in a way.
Wasn't so fantastical.
I mean, yeah, I mean, going back even to Batman Begins, I mean, the bad guys are weird, but they're not these godlike beings. And neither's Batman, and that's his element. That's where he is and should be, probably.
Yep.
I mean, to jump to Justice League, it's a little, that Batman is definitely a fish out of water in that scenario, even though he's kind of the one orchestrating the whole thing.
Yeah.
But with Ledger's Joker, yeah, he fit that. There was kind of an early vision of this. I mean, Batman's allegedly just this guy, but and they didn't go so nuts with Joker that he broke that mold.
Yeah.
He broke that kind of storyline, and it all kind of worked. And then the third one, they kind of messed it up a little bit. But again, we're still not talking about Marvel.
Yeah. One thing, and I'll quit. If you think about the other villains that Batman fights, if you think about Joker, he's just a man. There's no superpowers. There's no serum that beefs him up. He's not half crocodile. He's not, he's like Batman. He's just a man, which why it makes a good, because at that point, if you're matched in brawn, at that point it becomes about the brain.
Right, and that's
so does,
yeah, and that's where.
So does Marvel have anything like that?
Does Marvel have what? A plain person?
Matchup like that,
I don't know that Marvel has a plain person character other than maybe Moon Knight, which was a copy of Batman.
Yeah. They kind of rip on each other a lot, don't they? But then again, it's kind of hard to, I don't know, I could see how they could come up with similarities.
Now, in the Marvel Cinematic, they've got 3 actors that are coming up on the end of their contract. Is that right?
At least.
I think Chris Evans, Robert Downey, I think Hemsworth, and the girl.
Scarlett Johansson?
Yes, Scarlett Johansson. I think they're all at the end of their 10.
Well, actually, they're supposedly working on a Black Widow. solo film.
Oh.
So she may not be done yet.
And once again, I'm not a big Marvel fan, so I didn't know her character I knew the character, but not too well. I wouldn't mind seeing just a solo film of her. The character that they made her through these movies and things, I wouldn't mind learning a little bit more about her. I feel like she was one of the key people on the team that we didn't know a whole lot about. She's here and there talking to, is it Hawkeye?
Yeah.
She's let things slip, but not where we really know her background and things, like we do Iron Man and Captain America and stuff.
Yeah, but see, my concern is that may be what makes her work as a character. And so to learn too much about her might be fatal.
True.
I'm not. Part of the deal is that I don't know that much about Black Widow either.
Yeah.
So I don't know how. I mean, if one of y'all knows more about Black Widow than I do, by all means, tell me I'm wrong. But I mean, especially if you go with the cinematic version, she's like supposedly this like super spy type person. She's like a female Jason Bourne, for lack of a better. I hate to just compare her to a guy because that's what everybody knows, but she's the undercover type. I mean, so how much do you need to know about the undercover person? How much of that is ever really going to come out for any reason? Other than in the little bits and bites that you get when she's making snide comments to Hawkeye, or she's kind of mired in this whole thing with Captain America or whatever. I mean, that's when you're going to see little pieces, but giving a whole picture to that might not work.
Yeah. See, I could see her with Banner. She was the only one at first who could tame the Hulk. He's going to need a woman like that. He gets out of line, she can kick his ass. I said go make me a sandwich.
You see, you joke, but that's not what that scene in the first Avengers movie was about. I mean, the look on her face when she's ordered to go get him.
Yeah.
She's fucking terrified. And she
course,
should be because she knows what that is. She knows
what he's capable of. Yeah.
Right. And so there's and I thought that was played beautifully. That is one of my favorite scenes of that movie. It's just the abject terror in her eyes through the whole thing. Because she knows what that is. And she doesn't know if he knows how to control himself or not. And she's pretty sure she can't. But
she did.
She's got to go do it. Well, she didn't control him. She just talked him into coming with her.
Well, and then when he was all hulked out and stuff, she was the only one he would listen to. When they were all getting to the fight and they didn't know if he was going to come back or not, and she was the one who actually, I thought, maybe I'm not like if I remember the right movie, but
to steal a quote, you and I are remembering Beirut very differently. Yeah, I don't think there was any controlling. Banner was controlling himself. I think if there was a meaningful look exchanged, that was Banner's way of saying, yes, I've got this under control. You don't have to fear me as much.
See, and then we learned later on, it wasn't Banner controlling the Hulk, it was the Hulk controlling Banner. That's why when he hulked out and what was it? He was missing for almost a year as the Hulk. So when Banner came to, he was like, damn it. What the heck did he do? But I don't know. I kind of enjoyed seeing that too. But then the problems that he had in Avengers where he was trying to Hulk out and he couldn't. And Hulk was telling him, no, screw you. I've already gotten my butt kicked by this guy. I'm outie. tired of protecting you. You do it yourself. But we know when it comes right down to it, the Hulk can't let Banner die because then he dies.
Doesn't mean he can't mess with him a little bit along the way.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely, where they left the Avengers at, he's definitely totally mind screwing him, you know? And two, if you think about it from the Hulk's point of view, you only call me when you want something. You know? Can't I ever just be around to have a beer with the guys? But no, you call me when there's big metal worms in the sky. You know? Don't call me anymore. Leave me alone.
Yeah, you know, strangely enough, in many groups of friends in the world, there's the one guy who is just constantly pissed about something and just always wanting to break stuff and screw around and do things that are harmful. Who do you think the one that we're not going to call when we want to throw back some beers is going to be? I mean, come on.
Right. But you still call him.
Maybe you don't always call the Rage Monster to
maybe
hang
in a
out.
Controlled situation, but
yeah, because beer is always good for controlling things.
Yeah. Well, because in Thor, the Hulk had a life. He was doing fine. He was a champion. He was great. And then Thor comes along and he's like, hey, I know you, you know. So he kind of took away what the Hulk had, you know, like I said, he had a life going. He had a nice room. They took good care of him. He fought and then he went home, you know. So I could see, too, being pissed at Banner as, you know, you took me away from my life, you know. You didn't want the Rage Monster around, fine. I found a place where I could fight and still kick back a beer. You know?
Right, and the problem becomes if Hulk is the one who's dominant, then that means that Banner's still there, but not in control. And it's a terrible symbiotic thing.
Yeah, because when he came to, he didn't know anything.
They can't escape each other.
Yep.
They're very different, and they can't get away from each other at all.
So I think showing the fighting like that in the last Avengers will have resolve on that. They'll find a way to coexist with each other. Give the Hulk what he wants to, but let Banner have a life too, you know?
Yeah, you're an optimist. That's not how Marvel stories work.
Yeah, but I don't know. They're kind of setting it up. You know?
If they're looking to drop Hulk out of the stories entirely, then that may be a way to do it, for sure, but I don't know.
Well, they wouldn't have to drop him out. He could still be a fighter, you know, like he was on that other planet. He was still a fighter. Just give Banner some time or, you know, let him go on a date. Don't Hulk out on her. Let Hulk go and wrestle, you know. I think he was more of a gladiator, so I don't think wrestling applied there, but...
Yeah, you use whatever skills you have, but Hulk's never really been one for wrestling.
No. But I kind of enjoyed seeing him in that environment like that. Not just this, you know, kind of guy, but kind of a calm to his madness, you know.
A calm, peaceful Rage Monster.
Yeah. He could sit down and eat. It wasn't tearing everything up constantly the way they have him do when he hulks out to fight, you know. He had a life.
When you were describing him in Ragnarok, I'm sorry, but something just struck me as funny. Talking about Hulk, and they have a place for him to live, and he goes out, and he fights, he comes back to his house, and all I could think of is Dolly Parton singing 9 to 5.
What a way to make a living.
Wow.
I think he had better benefits than they did, though.
I think there may be a death in the next Avengers movie.
Like permanent?
I've got a feeling that Captain America is going to buy the farm.
I think so too.
Okay, is he buying the farm or is he actually dying?
But didn't Chris Evans like tweet something like, "I've enjoyed playing this character for so long," and kind of like a goodbye to that character?
It was, and then shortly after that, the Russo brothers said he may not actually be through with Captain America, so we don't know. He's up. He is done contract. He's finished his contract. That much is true, but then again, so is Robert Downey Jr. and they brought him back not only for these two films, but for Spider-Man films. So.
Yeah. See, and I like him. He's like the success story that you want every celebrity gone bad to have. You know, I remember him in Less Than Zero when he probably portrayed pretty close to what was going on in his life at the time. Drug addict, out of control, constantly read him being arrested, DWIs, you know. And then it was kind of like something snapped for him. I'm tired of this. I don't want to be the Hollywood bad boy anymore. And he's now someone you can actually respect and has a respectable career. And, you know, he's very good success story there. If you would have told me in the 80s that he would be this clean-cut, sober guy he is today, I would have told you were freaking lying. No way. No way. So I'm actually proud of the fact that he was able to rise above. And, I mean, heck, he's a hero to almost every child alive today, you know? Which is kind of the Tony Stark story, isn't it? Drug addict gone good. And they said that with Iron Man 3, he now had more money than Tony Stark is portrayed in having in the comic books. It's kind of interesting, huh?
We talking about Downey, or are we talking about...
Downey,
okay.
yeah. Yeah. So my question is, why isn't he a Batman or an Iron Man yet? You got the money, dude.
Because he's not an actual engineering genius.
Yeah. And he's another one that you also read about. He keeps his suit so he can go see children. Hang on. She didn't like that. She don't like children's hospital. She hears me talking and she wants to sing to me.
100 bottles of beer on the wall.
She's crazy. She'll just start singing. But yeah, he's, like I said, he's one of those that does good with the fame that he's found. You know, now since they have given us characters like Chris Evans and Robert Downey, don't you think it'll be harder to do something different without those guys as those characters?
You mean like have somebody else play Captain America?
Yeah. It's kind of like X-Men. I don't know if I want to watch X-Men where Hugh Jackman is not Wolverine. He is Wolverine. When people say that name, that's the face that pops up, you know. I think it's going to be hard to fill his shoes for sure. So now that they've done this 10-year thing where they've made us love these guys and fall in love with the character, I think it'll be kind of hard to do anything different outside of that.
Yeah, which is probably why they were planning on just letting those characters fall by the wayside at
Yeah.
some point, moving on to a different type of story.
But you know, these are their cash cows. These are what sells in the comic books and everything else too. That would be like DC saying, "Okay, well we already did a Batman movie. I don't think we'll do another one of them." What? You can't not do a Batman movie, you know.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to throw them.
It would be nice. It would be nice if they mix it up a little bit.
It would. But would it reach the same audience? You throw Batman on a movie and everybody knows who that is. You know, even if you've never read a comic book in your life, people know who Batman is.
Well, I mean, you could say that for just about all of the Marvel movies you just talked about.
Yeah.
Nobody knew who the general public did not know anything about Iron Man.
Right.
Captain America, maybe.
Yeah.
Certainly,
so now that they
certainly not Ant-Man or
Wasp
or Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
I mean, that was a risk, but
Yep.
it worked.
But see, that's what I'm saying, though. People who didn't even know these people now know who Iron Man and stuff is because of these movies. So don't you think it'll be hard to cast outside of this now? Because honestly, they've done it too well. You've invested 10 years into these people now to where it's kind of like throwing Ben Affleck in a Batman suit. People are going to go, what? That's not Iron Man. You know? That's not, you know.
Well, I mean, there are several characters you could do that to, you know.
Yeah.
If that was the attitude, then we would never had another James Bond film after
Connery quit.
Yeah, after You Only Live Twice. Doctor Who, there would only been one Doctor, and that was it, you know. So
yeah, but see, the Doctor, they made it in a way that you understood.
True,
you know,
true, but
that was part of the character was changing into another character.
That's a bad example. But
no, it's not, because how do we know they didn't do that in retrospect? How do they know that that William Hartnell didn't just quit? Just like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And they're like, oh shit, what are we going to do now? How are we going to come up with this? I got an idea. Let's regenerate him. I mean, so they managed to come up with a BS excuse for doing it.
True. But they came up with one.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't just like, hey, here's Ben Affleck in a Batman suit.
Well,
you know, not this guy's got tired.
I still go back to James Bond then.
Yeah, that's true.
There is no explanation of why he looks different.
It's a movie, that's why.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I mean, it would be the same purpose.
Been doing it for 100 friggin' years or more.
Well, I mean, you could say the same thing if a few years from now they decided to do another Captain America film, and it's not Chris Evans, it's someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the same.
And
deal.
I guess too, that all depends on who they get. I guess that's with anybody, but.
Oh, yeah, that's with anybody and any character. So.
Yeah.
Only to a certain extent. I mean, part of this is that whole ruining my childhood mentality.
Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
True.
Okay, you know, they can't. I mean, Chris Evans can't friggin' play Captain America forever.
Right.
If they want to make a Captain America movie, somebody else is going to have to play him at some point. That doesn't mean that the studio is intentionally trying to piss off the fan base. It just means that the reality is Chris Evans is aging like a human being.
Right. But that's the way the fans take it.
Yeah, well, they're wrong.
Yeah. I was going to say, you've seen it so many times. The outrage. The, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this to my guy, you know.
Right. Okay,
but
you've got those movies on DVD. Go watch those.
But you can screw up a good movie with a good plot with the wrong person.
You can. Absolutely.
You totally.
Hollywood does it all the time.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean we should stop because they might screw it up.
Right.
There's no way in hell a Hollywood studio is going to just stop because a new actor might screw this up. You know why? Because there's millions of freaking dollars at stake. That's why.
Well, maybe not stop, but I can definitely see a few years go by before we see another Captain America.
And again,
Not
I think that's the
Next
plan.
year, and
Yeah.
that's good. And I think that's where DC, I hate to bring them up again, has kind of messed up the whole thing up. Is it's kind of they keep changing it, and there's no adjustment period. There's no, let me
Right.
just wrap around the garbage you handed me, or
if if they came into it with a 10-year plan like Marvel did, they've screwed it up royally.
Oh, big
And
time.
they've changed their mind too many times for it to work at all at this point.
Well, they already screwed up their
I
own timeline.
suspect they didn't
Yeah.
come into this with a
No.
10-year plan in mind.
But I do think that DC should swallow some pride and take a look at what Marvel's done. I mean, I could bag on Marvel all day, but I can't their movies.
And I want to say something here. We keep saying DC. DC doesn't really have any control over the movies. It's Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
So let's point the fingers to the right people.
true.
It's Warner Brothers that's really kind of they're seeing what's going on with their competitors, and yeah, they want to do that. I mean, look at the success that Deadpool had when the first movie came out. Then all of a sudden, you started hearing rumblings from Warner Brothers. Well, you know what? We might start making some of our movies rated R. I'm like, don't do it just because you can have a rated R film.
Right.
Do it
Do it.
if it's what needs to be done to tell your story.
You couldn't tell a non-R-rated Deadpool story. You just can't. Deadpool is R-rated. Everything that comes out of his mouth is pretty much R-rated.
Well,
I don't see how they could have worked around that. But then Warner Brothers jumped in with Suicide Squad. Well, we're going to make it X-rated. And I'm sorry, that turned out to be a freaking love story from hell, and it's like this. I'm glad you didn't make it R-rated. What would have been R-rated in that movie, But like you said, they jumped on that bandwagon because Marvel did it. Marvel made a lot of money doing it. Now, let's see if we can do this.
Right. See, so what really probably needs to happen is that DC needs to stop looking at Marvel.
On
and
that end.
tell their own frickin' story.
But see, Deadpool isn't part of this 10-year plan. I think Deadpool was just kind of an accident that they really didn't know was going to take off like it did, I think it was kind of, let's throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, because he doesn't fit anywhere in any of that universe. Well, I think
that's because
he's in the Fox
because it was
universe.
Fox, but yeah.
That's right. But
still, I mean, it still applies. It's just that Warner Brothers saw that and then went, okay, we could do that too. We can be edgy and all that. It's like, don't. Just concentrate on doing a good story, and that's all you need. If it has to be rated R, okay. If it could be PG, okay, or PG-13, whatever, what it takes to tell the story. Just don't do it just for the sake of getting that particular rating.
Right. The difference here is that Marvel is letting their story people tell the story, and DC/Warner Brothers is not. They don't have the freedom. The story people don't have the kind of freedom that the Marvel story people do, and so DC's getting mired in the money. They're not trying to make a good $200 million blockbuster. They're trying to make a $200 million blockbuster, which you can't just do that. That's not a thing that happens. There has to be more to it than that, and they're forgetting that. And Warner Brothers has made shit tons of great movies in their storied career,
Mm-hmm.
but they're somehow just not getting the people that
superheroes.
the people that they've got in charge. I don't think it has anything to do with superheroes. They're just not. They're not telling the story. They're forgetting that the story is what matters, and they're getting all choked up in the money, and it's killing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's flat out killing them.
If you can't put out a good story and have characters that you're invested in, whether you care about them or not, because look, I mean, there are some characters that you're not supposed to like, but you still want to know what happens with them.
Right.
But if you don't have any invested interest in them and the story or the characters, then I mean, you're wasting time. Yeah.
Yep.
And even Disney screws this up from time to time. Look at John Carter. I mean, admittedly, we probably use that example more than we should, but it's a really glaring example of the studio screwing up a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But see, Disney has to walk a fine line. It's not. They're a brand that has made its fame and fortune from children, and children grow up. Their children's children's children. You know, that's the line that Disney has to walk. To where Deadpool, Disney can't put their Disney name on Deadpool.
Disney has been using different studio names for that shit for decades.
Right.
It's what they do.
But see, now with being so attached to Marvel, I don't think we'll see a main title character that Disney owns. I don't think we'll see that R-rated. And honestly, I know this is probably going to make me very unpopular. With the way kids look up to superheroes and things, I really don't think there should be anything R-rated like that. You know? Not on Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman from the DC side, which is another good reason that Marvel, they're movies you can take your kids to. So you're not just getting the older generation's money, you're getting the kids too, which is where Disney, I mean, they learned that secret a long time ago, how to do that, you know. So I'm kind of glad they keep it the way they do, but I think sometimes that'll hold Marvel back because Disney does have to walk that line. They're held at a standard that most companies aren't today. And they've had to apologize for a lot of the way they were in the past, too, to keep that, prestige and their brand intact.
I'm just saying there are ways around it.
Yeah, but I don't think they could do that with who people know as Marvel.
Alrighty. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this conversation?
Good Lord, no.
Yeah.
I think we've had enough thoughts in this one.
Yeah, I think we've gone on long enough as it is, yes.
Right.
Alrighty, with that, we are going to take a quick break and be back with our weekly picks. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Les.
Thank you, sir. My first choice comes from Image Comics. Keith Giffen and Benjamin Roman bring you part 4 of a 6-part series called Auntie Agatha's Home for Wayward Rabbits. This has been a good humor story, and it's one that I think appeals to most people because you've got deceit, you have backstabbing, and it's just been fun to read. In this one, Loomis, who is a mouse, devises the ultimate booby trap to get the females, the feline enemies. But another character has plans for the contraption. So it's going to be fun to see which direction this one really goes. If you can, go find the previous issues and just sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, this series is a hoot. I have been enjoying it very much.
I need to pick that one up.
Nice. Liz, you're next.
Alrighty. For my first pick, I'm actually doing one from Marvel. It's Age of X-Men, Next Gen. It sounds like they all live in a utopian universe now, and they've made a school to where the mutants can accelerate their powers, learn their powers, and it's mandatory that they go. Well, they're saying in this world, even though everything is perfect, teenagers are going to find a way to rebel. I mean, always. So, this will follow Glob, Armor, Anole, and Rockslide as they try to figure out their new world, I guess. So, should be pretty interesting. I thought it would be a good start if you haven't read a lot of the X-Men series. So, Age of X-Men.
Cool.
Yep.
So there has been some interest in the Age of X-Men storyline, so this was one that'll fit in.
Yep.
Alrighty. Mikey, you're next.
Okie dokie. My first pick is from Image Comics, and I am picking Criminal #2. Criminal's back, which kind of explains why Killer Be Killed went away, although I'm still sad about that too. But kind of hard to argue with Criminal. It's one of those where you're like, yeah, okay, fine, I guess. But yeah, if you're not familiar with Criminal, it is kind of a long-standing crime series by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. And so it's back. This is issue 2. Jump back and grab the first one. It was pretty dang interesting as well. These guys are pros at what they do. Absolutely. So check it out.
Nice. Yeah, it's good to see Criminal back.
Yep.
Been a while.
A little bit.
Alrighty, I am next, and for my first pick, I'm going with a new series from DC Comics. It is a 6-issue miniseries called Wonder Twins, and yes, it is the Wonder Twins. It's written by Mark Russell with art by Stephanie Byrne, and the premise is Xana and Jaina have been exiled off their planet and are adapting to living on Earth. And of course, going to school, and then actually being a part of. Don't know if they're going to be part of the Justice League, but they're obviously hanging out at the Hall of Justice. Looks like it might be pretty fun. Mark Russell just came off of his run on Lone Ranger, which I enjoyed the heck out of. He's really been knocking out of the park real recently, so I have high hopes about this book. And it sounds like it's going to be a hoot.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm in for that one too.
Okay, Les, you're up again.
All right. My second choice comes from Marvel Comics. This is Marvel's Annotated #1. This is celebrating the 25th anniversary of this story. It was originally done in 4 issues. Later, they had added a 0 to this one to make the 5th issue. I love this story. This is a perspective of what the common man is doing, what he is seeing when superheroes start showing up. Alex Ross does the artwork. Kurt Busiek is the writer. They really hit it on all cylinders on this story. This was beautiful. There are camera angles for the work that Ross does that are just friggin' phenomenal. I'm going to say, get out and buy this. It is so beautiful. And in this version, they will be adding some new material. And of course, the Marvel's Annotated #1 includes Marvel Zero and #1. This too will be a 4-issue series.
Cool.
Nice.
I enjoyed Marvels. That was such a great story. So it's kind of it would be kind of neat to come back and look at this and see what they've added and hopefully it's going to be in front of new eyes, people who were not aware of this book. Definitely check this one out. So, Liz, you're next.
Alrighty, for my second one, I've talked about this one before. Hit Girl Season 2 starts up. Kevin Smith is actually going to be writing this one, so I'm really excited to see where he takes this one. Amanda Connor is going to do a variant cover, but should be good. And this one, instead of taking her revenge out on gangs and drug dealers, she has set her eyes on Hollywood. She finds out that they're making a movie about her, and she doesn't want a movie made about her. So she's going after writers, the Fat Cats, all of them. So should be pretty interesting. Like I said, anything that Kevin's involved in is going to be kind of wild. But I was noticing, though, like the first one's called The Silent Era, like Charlie Chaplin and stuff. And the second one they're calling in Surround Sound. And the third one's The Talkies. So it's all kind of like Hollywood themes. So I said it should be pretty good. So if you haven't taken my recommendations in the past, take it now and start on season 2.
Good choice.
Oh, I'm debating whether I should point out that this sounds a whole hell of a lot like the plot of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Strike Back.
Yeah. Yep. Probably.
That doesn't mean it won't be good. Don't get me wrong. I love that movie, but yeah.
Yeah. That's true. I didn't think about that till you pointed that out.
It is, yeah.
Which probably makes me love it even more.
Yeah, me too. Because that's just the kind of filmmaker that Kevin Smith is. That's his thing, and yeah, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, he does it well.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, Mike.
Okay, time for my showstopper. My second pick is from Marvel Comics. I cannot remember the last time I said that.
I didn't know you could say that.
I'm as shocked as anybody else. But this is that said, this pick of mine is still not going to be a surprise. I am choosing Savage Sword of Conan #1. If you've been wondering why Conan has not been showing up on Dark Horse's previews lately, it's because Marvel got the Conan license back, and so they're turning Jerry Duggan loose on this thing, and it ought to be a whole lot of fun because it's Conan. I mean, how the hell could it not be? And Alex Ross cover is probably not really going to hurt things either, so because he does pretty good. So, yeah, check out. Let's see where Marvel's gonna go with Conan now.
Cool.
Should be interesting. Alrighty, I guess it's my turn. So for my second choice, I turn to Dark Horse Comics, and it's another edition of their EC archives, and this one's labeled Piracy, and this is reprinting issues 1 through 7 of the series Piracy, which is obviously dealing about pirates and out in the seas and all that kind of stuff. It got art from Wally Wood, Jack Davis, Al Williamson, Bernard Kriegenstein, and George Evans, and on and on and on. Sounds like it'd be pretty cool. I really dig the fact that Dark Horse goes back and does these hardcover collections of books that most readers don't know even existed, and so they're saved. So the stories are gonna still be around. It may not be in original form, but they're still gonna be here, and that's really cool.
It is.
Yep, it's a lot of interesting stuff.
And our honorable mention this week is
from DC Comics. It is a reissue of the graphic novel Torso by Brian Michael Bendis. And this I remember reading many years ago, since it is the 25th anniversary of this one. It's the story of Elliot Ness in Cleveland. And he has just defeated Al Capone, but now he is faced with a headless torso, or torsos, I'm sorry. And it's a crime novel, so yeah, I was in on it the first round. I'll be in on it this round too, because it read so well, it moved so easily, and had a good solid finish to it. So try this one out, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, that Bendis guy, he can write.
Mm-hmm.
Heard tell, yeah.
alrighty. Special shout outs. I know we got the announcement of course, by the time this comes out, it's going to be over, but we have our monthly meetup. For those of you in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, every second Saturday we have a meetup. Y'all can come join us, and we'll discuss whatever's going on, whatever you'd like to talk about. Would be awesome. Anything going on in comics, movies, TV, whatever. So please come join us. It would be meeting at a Galaxy called Dallas Comics located in Garland. That's at 1238 Beltline Road, Suite 365. You can go to our website, and there's an events page. We'll have all that information there. You can also find out information on our Facebook page. We have a Facebook event. Feel free to go over there, and if you're interested, just click that you're interested, or if you're coming, then great. Hope to see you there. Should be fun. We had a lot of fun with the January show, or January meetup. It wasn't really a show, but it was a meetup. But really excited about the one for this month. So feel free to join us. Is there any other shout-outs this week?
Not me.
No.
Not here.
Okay. Alrighty. we'll get to our regular shout-out, Stan. And first off, we want to thank Manny the Murderer for supplying the music for our podcast. Go check them out. We'll have a link in our show notes to their music. They have a couple of EPs out. Definitely worthy of your attention. Thank you guys for your support. I also want to shout out to the Podron family for spreading the word of the fellowship on Twitter. We highly recommend you checking them out, and the easiest way to do that is to just do a search, hashtag Podron family, that's all one word, and just scroll through, and whatever shows catch your attention, feel free to download and enjoy yourself. I also want to say that we are part of the Pop Goes the Culture podcast network. Definitely should check them out. We'll have a link in our show notes, or if you go to the website, you can go to the podcast page. There's information there. Some great podcasts there that we are happy to be a part of. So thank you for that. And finally, you, dear listener, we appreciate your support. We would value your feedback. We would love to hear from you. There are several ways you can do that. If you have a comment, suggestion, complaint, observation, whatever, please contact us. You can do it on the website. There's a contact form on our About Us page. You can fill that out, or send us an email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. We're obviously on Facebook. Feel free to follow us there, and you can contact us that way if you'd like. We're obviously on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Feel free to follow us there. And you can follow our personal Twitter accounts if you so desire. Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_Geek. And I can be found at Tom TC Geek. And we would love for you to rate and review our show from whatever site you download our episodes, whether it's through iTunes, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, or just listen to us on YouTube. Please rate and review us. It'd be greatly appreciated. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening once again, folks. We appreciate your support as always. And until next time, read more comics and support your local stores. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks, and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,